Hey guys, George from CryptosRUS says the Bitcoin run started today, and he does an excellent analysis of where the market is going. And I thought, let's watch this video. I think it's really going to help us in making the right decisions.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. You could see Bitcoin slowly trending higher. Actually, we just touched like 21.5 just a few seconds ago, but we're at 21.3, which is a few hundred higher than last night when we were at like 21.1, which is a few hundred higher than the day before. It's just slow trending at this point. More and more people, momentum is coming back. But the US market is about to open in about 3 minutes. And it's looking red right now. It's looking red. But I've been saying this for a while. Bitcoin is actually the leading indicator for tech and for US markets, because whatever Bitcoin starts moving up, you generally see the market, they may start out like kind of negative or neutral, and then you see it flipping to green. We'll see if it still happens today, but there's a good chance of that. There's a good chance of that. Now, there are some banking stuff, banking reports, earnings, mixed. Goldman Sachs posted its worst earnings in a decade. Their revenue was so off. It's crazy that they're not selling off more in the pre-market, right? So some of the banks not doing good. Some of the banks are. Morgan Stanley says, well, they are okay because of their wealth management. I wonder if their wealth management did so well because they recommended everyone to go buy Bitcoin. Because that's what all the wealth management groups of these banks are doing. They're telling their most wealthiest customers, like, hey, you don't want to be ignoring Bitcoin at this point. We can help you buy some Bitcoin. Well, maybe. I don't know if that helped. Because 2022 was actually pretty bad for Bitcoin. We know that. But Bank of America says CBDCs are the future of money and payments. I don't know if they're referring to the Fed dollar, right? The digital dollar that's coming, or in general CBDCs from across nations everywhere, or in relation to stable coins within the crypto space, right? But ultimately, I think all these guys are preparing for the future, and that is utilizing digital currencies, okay, and stop using the traditional financial payment rails, which are archaic and slow and costly. You don't need none of that. When it comes to payments, crypto, blockchain, settlement times, ledger, everything that comes with what we have right now is so much superior and faster and cheaper. There is the market bell. Best bell in the industry. So they recognize it, we recognize it, and that's why we're in this space. That's why we're in early. Crypto-focused bank Silvergate reports a huge loss. Yeah, that was not that was expected, not a surprise, because of their ties with a lot of these companies that went under, but they're still around. They haven't closed doors. With a loss of $1 billion in Q4, that is no joke. No joke at all. And what's also no joke is Anthony Scaramucci says SBF is he has a spot for him in the ninth circle of hell. I don't know what that means exactly, but the Mooch is not a fan of SBF. But someone who is a fan of SBF, Mr. Wonderful, is still doing interviews and talking about and kind of spreading fear about how other crypto exchanges will melt down to zero. It will 100% happen, which I do agree with over time. But as for exchanges that may be going under in 2023, I don't see a whole lot of exchanges doing that. Now, there may be some companies in the crypto that could be doing it, but overall, I think the contagion from what we have seen has pretty much been limited. Now, the one asterisk I would say to worry about is DCG and what they're going to do with Genesis and Grayscale, right? But I don't think they're in a position where they're just going to be absolutely wrecked and close doors and that's it. I think they will find a way to get out of it. However, I still have not heard Kevin O'Leary say that SBF did anything wrong. Still have not heard that. There's just something about this relationship there between Mr. Wonderful and SBF. He will back him till the end, to the ends of the earth. Not quite sure why, but it is what it is. All right. So outside of those things, what's going on with Bitcoin, right? So still a lot of people trying to guess what's going on with Bitcoin. Is this really a recovery? Is this really a turning point from bottom, or is just a sucker's rally, right? Well, that's what many people are trying to figure out. And I covered this yesterday. If you look at the market cycle, is this disbelief? I do believe so. I think that we have come up from bottom and we have been angry. We have, first of all, capitulated. We were angry and also in depression for quite some time. And now that things are coming up, we're kind of in that disbelief stage. But eventually, as we cross this important level that I'll get to in a little bit, we will get out of it and move into hope and then optimism. And that's when FOMO really starts building, right? And then we go all the way up to euphoria. And that will probably be in 2025. So we got some years to go. But that's where I think we are right now, in disbelief, and we will move past it. But in the meantime, here's some models from Willy Woo, who is an analyst, a Bitcoin analyst, and he has some of his own models. Here's one that's called CVDD. It's a way to measure basically the long-term holders transfer to short-term holders or vice versa, something like that. I don't quite understand it, but it does look pretty good, though, in terms of measuring bottoms. It looks like a moving indicator, right? A moving average. But you could see this has been true all the way back since the beginning. You could see the bottom point in 2012. And then this also hit somewhere around 2015. Then it hit and stood there for a while in 2018, 2019. And guess where we are right now? We have hit that point in 2021, 2022, and now we are flipping above. So this is a pretty accurate bottom indicator. I would say 100%, right? So this is looking pretty darn good. And here's one measuring cost basis of short-term and long-term holders. Again, you could see very similar to previous drawdowns, previous bottoms. And here's a macro index. Well, my camera's cutting this off, but you guys can see right there, right? So again, all these models are looking pretty darn good. And then from a trading perspective, indicator perspective, you look at, this is the 2-week MACD. So MACD has been showing a turnaround for quite some time because it's been very, very red, very down. Bitcoin has been very down, right? And this, in fact, according to Stock Money Lizard, is the longest bearish 2-week MACD period in history, and it just concluded. We are now flipping above. Whenever MACD flips above, that's always a good thing, right? But we just gone through the longest drawdown ever for Bitcoin in any cycle. We broke down longer than any other cycle ever in history. So think about that. Think about how oversold we are. And it was probably prolonged because the FTX collapsed. Without it, we were around the same mark right now, like 20, 21,000. We were moving back up, and then we went down for another few months. And that's probably the reason why we went through the longest drawdown ever, because of FTX. But now we're past that, right? And of course, you look at where we are versus the next halving, which plays a crucial role in how Bitcoin moves, right? We're on track. Even though we're We got delayed a little bit because of FTX, right? But now we're past that. We're breaking higher. So very, very good. Here's also one that shows us breaking above the 100 EMA. We have a lot of these, right? A lot of these. I mean, there's just so much that shows so much data, I should say, models and indicators and everything else, charts that show that we are recovering up from bottom and we are itching to move higher. Now, I didn't even talk about the breakout point, right? So looking at moving averages, there is one that most people look at. If you discount everything else, there's one major level that people look at, and I'm going to bring it up right here, and that is this white line, and that is the 200 weekly moving average. This is on the weekly scale, okay? And you could see this is the support level, now turned resistance. That is absolutely huge, because if you look at this, it has been basically the bottom point for Bitcoin. Going back, if I had a chart that went back more, it would show the same thing going all the way back to even previous cycles. But you could see back in 2018, when Bitcoin fell to 3,000, people thought that it was going to go lower, that it might have gone to 1,000. There's talks about hyperwave going to 1,000 back then, right? And maybe even below 1,000 to 800 or something. But no, Bitcoin didn't. It held at 3,000 and then stood there for a while and then recovered, right? And you could see the 200 weekly moving average was the bottom point. Now, the COVID crash of 2020, again, we fell down very, very fast. Massive panic, massive FUD. The market capitulated on everything, and Bitcoin did fall for a couple weeks below that 200 weekly moving average, but then it recovered, right? So you look at where we are now. We are actually below it. We tried to break above. We did fall below and break above, right? But we failed here because we had some bad stuff happen. For example, Luna crashing, then Three Arrows Capital crashing, then Celsius crashing, then Voyager crashing, right? Even then, we tried to break above. We didn't, because then we had FTX crashing, which brought us lower, right? But now we have reset that. We are back to the point where we are now inching above, and this will be an absolutely huge thing to break above the 200 weekly moving average, because we have never, ever been this far off and this long below the 200 weekly moving average. So I think this will definitely be the breakout point. This will verify whether or not this is a sucker's rally or we are in true recovery. Because if we can touch upon that, break through it, I think we will be looking good. And it's not just that point too, because I turned off the lines that I've drawn, right? You could see that point right there, right around there, about 24,500-ish, right, was the previous point, one of our previous local tops. So that is actually a resistance I already drew out already, right? So it all kind of fits in right there. There's a cross pattern almost right there. So I think as we trend higher, which we will, right, we're not too far off from there, but that point right there will be pretty important to break. And we could see a bigger breakout or recovery, however you want to define it, after we break through here, because then next up is 30,000, right? Look at this. We have no point, right, really. We fell from 30,000 down to 24, actually we fell down lower to 18s, right? But we have a little bit of resistance here. But if we break through that, we're back to the 30s. So I think that's absolutely important. Crucial. Breakout point right there. All right. So that's what I wanted to cover overall. Oh, something else. I was drawing out. Sometimes I get bored because I have nothing to do. I drew out this channel. And, strangely enough, this also predicts kind of like the bottom. You can see the bottom point going back to 2018 to now. You can see that fits this trend line pretty darn accurately. And if you're looking at the top, right, which I've drawn out, and you could do this a couple different ways, but if you're drawing out the top like this, right, and we're projecting here, let's just say we're projecting for the remainder of this year, moving to 2024, you could see that in 2018, when we recover from bottom, we recover pretty fast. Then we trended down, unfortunately, because we had this scare with COVID and it really just brought everything down. But if you look at it overall, we stayed, let's just say, sideways for almost a year, more than a year, before really rallying up. And that's because we finally hit the halving event and then things just went up in a big way, right? So if I'm projecting a little bit, you know, if we continue this trend upwards, we could see a tremendous rally, a tremendous bounce after we break through that 24.3, 24.5 mark, right? Can we actually see Bitcoin possibly breaking above 30, even hitting the 50s before coming back down, kind of the same pattern? Maybe we way overshoot towards the latter half of this year. You know, maybe we hit even 50s and then break back down to like maybe the 30s. And then we break up to our previous high 70s in 2024. And then beyond that. That would be amazing to see. That would be amazing to see if we're following the same pattern as 2018, 2019, and 2020. It's hard to predict because it's so early. But hey, that could be in the cards.